All right, we are live, fellas. How's everyone doing tonight? Hey, everybody that's watching live, we appreciate you guys watching us live. Tonight, we are going to be talking about Greyscale versus SEC. We're going to be talking about that ruling. We're also going to be discussing the April 2023 jobs report that just dropped. Jobs are increasing, and the unemployment rate is going up at the same time. So, gentlemen, I appreciate your finest hats that you have on right now. So, but hey, everyone that's watching live, we appreciate it. Make sure you guys smash that like button if you guys haven't already. Make sure you guys like us. Make sure you guys give us a solid comment. Check in the description, find that Telegram, join our Telegram, as well as all of us on socials. With that being said, Mr. Agent Shay, a.k.a. Pikachu Helmet, what's up, buddy?
What's up, fam? As usual, thank you guys so much for joining us here on our Sunday episode of the DGen Roundtable. I've been doing good, man. This whole week and really this whole month of August, or last month, I guess I should say, was pretty good. All of my merchandise from August, aside from 2 residuals left, sold, bro. My inventory is absolutely freaking clear. And then I just finished the last big project that I have from August. It's a 6-piece dining set. I painted the top this nice slate gray color, and then the base and the frames of the chairs is like off-white cream. I'll show you guys in the chat later on what it looks like. It's pretty dope. It's out there curing right now because the paint just dried. And then I still have to apply this like poly coat on top so that it's protected from like scratches and water damage and stuff of that sorts. But August was a good month for me, man. And then I bought 2 kayaks so I could take the wife out on the lake, right? And all like literally on our pre-show, all of the gear for the kayaks just kind of the Amazon guy just dropped it off. So that was pretty fun. I was kind of going through it before we hopped on stream. But yeah, man, it's been going good. Been stacking a lot. The sales are good, so I've been able to stack up a lot of dry powder for this dip that's incoming or on September. I'm going to go over that with the charts with you guys later, but my God, these prices are looking freaking juicy, and it seems like Bitcoin wants to head down lower. So, but that's what I got, man. How about you, Mr. B? Brendan, Mr. Bean, how you doing, buddy?
Just want to say down, down, down. That's where we're traveling. Honestly, I said it last week. I said the week before. Even though we got a pump from the original Greyscale news and the SEC losing a few lawsuits, the overall macroeconomic outlook was not very friendly to the markets and not very friendly to crypto. And therefore, we still had told you not to blow all your dry powder in one place. Nate, we get it. Talking to you. But no, seriously, I'm joking. But we did tell you, take your time. Watch the markets because we still have some downside opportunities, and they may not be over. We're pushing against 25.5, and 25.2. That's a psychological number. Once you get below 25,000, where do we hit? Do we go down to 22? So, not saying that's going to happen. Nothing we talk about is financial advice. Just saying, the things that are potentially going to happen. And we do want to say that when we spoke about it a week ago and 2 weeks ago, it came to fruition. So the things that we say is don't chase green candles, don't FOMO buy, when in doubt, zoom out. Okay. These are just sayings, but they're really, really important to keep in mind because you see that big green wick, that big green candle, and all you want to do is buy before you miss the opportunity because Bitcoin's going to the moon. Chill. Okay. Chill. We've been in the market long enough to realize that it's okay to watch a green candle engulf a red candle, and then the next day it's back to red, okay? I'm just going to say breathe. But other than that, it's a holiday weekend, so I just want to say, I just want to thank everyone that has been in the service, everyone that's given their lives to this country. We wouldn't be able to work. We wouldn't be able to have labor, except for the people that have put their lives on the line. Will, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate everyone that has literally worked for our country and allowed us to do what we do. We wouldn't be here as a podcast without our fans and without the people that fought for this country. So thank you.
Nate, what's going on, buddy? What you been up to?
Hey, it's your boy, Nate McApin. You know, I'll be throwing G's at these coins, every single green candle. You know, we going up. We're going to the moon, baby. Nah, man, DCAN. Yo, again, you know, I'm kind of sticking as much as I can to ETH right now. I was looking at my bags. I'm like, it's not enough, but I'm starting to move back over into Pulse. Again, I just want higher bags. I actually want 100 million Pulse. That's my big goal, right? But I don't know. The other thing too is Velodrome. I've been kind of focusing more over kind of going that direction. I think that's going to be another money printer I'm going to be creating for myself here. And as of tomorrow, it is payday for me. All my ICOSA stakes are coming out. So, yes, money day. That's what I got to call that, man. So, yeah, good times, good times.
I just want to say, sorry, I thanked Will. Josh, I got to thank you for your service as well.
Hey, man. Yeah. Don't worry about it, buddy. Speaking of that, Will, go ahead and take it over, buddy.
Hey, I totally forgot it was this weekend thing. I've been driving all weekend and cruising around. So hey, to all the dudes out there that did stuff, hey, good job. I hope you enjoyed it. And for those of you that died, well, that sucks, but we'll remember you. You know, we'll smoke a cigar, we'll wear silly cool hats, we'll drink our LaCroix and our Natty Day ice, and we'll just have a great fucking time enjoying buying these dips and hanging out. I ain't doing shit but buying more crypto, man. That's what's up with me.
I hear you. Hey, listen, and for the record, it's Labor Day. All right, that's what we're celebrating.
Oh, it's Labor Day.
I said Labor Day today. I said we wouldn't
have Labor Day. That's right.
Labor Day, except for the people that fought for this country.
I thought it was I thought you were implying Veterans Day, and I was like, shit, I am way off.
He's way too used to
Veterans Day is way off. All right, well, fucking hey, you know, even though it's not Veterans Day, thanks to all the veterans out there today and every day, every fucking day that you live in America is Veterans Day. So fuck all y'all. That's all I got.
Real smooth.
Can I give a quick story? Quick story before we get into everything. So today I met a chief in the Navy. I don't know if chiefs are big deals, okay? One of my buddies, Air Force, you know, obviously Josh will have served our country. And, you know, every time that I meet people that have really given their lives for this country in service, life, or in death, it just makes me, you know, reiterate that we have to be thankful for the things that we have. I wouldn't be able to buy crypto. I wouldn't be able to have a job. I wouldn't be able to have, you know, the United States of fucking America if it wasn't people that fought for this country. And so I just had that in my mind today. I had it in my heart. And so that's why I'm just having that out there. So that's all I got to say.
I hear you, man. I hear you. So for everyone that's watching, make sure you guys have a nice icy cold beverage in hand. Make sure you guys kick your feet up. If you got the day off tomorrow, you can stay up a little bit tonight. Maybe watch this on replay. But yep, that's what we're going to be celebrating. Tomorrow is Labor Day. And for the record, Veterans Day is November 11th. So just throwing that out there. Well, Jay, if you want, let's go ahead and hop right into TA. Let's go ahead and see what the charts are telling us and see what we can expect coming up.
Oh man, well, that was one hell of an intro. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the Bitcoin chart and take a look at what's going on in the market. Let me have 1 second here, please. I'm going to go ahead and share my TradingView chart here. Boom. Let me know if you guys see my chart.
Yes, sir. We're good to go.
Wunderbar. Okay. So, what the heck? There we go. Okay, let me remove some of the stuff here that I was doing earlier. Okay, so we are currently on day number 12 of the new 60-day cycle. Currently, Bitcoin is sitting exactly where it was at the end of our last 60-day cycle, which is hovering around this $26,000 area. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit later today, but you see this Chad green candle over here that happened on Tuesday? Well, this happened because Greyscale won their lawsuit against the SEC. And what I was telling everybody that morning because I got on stream as soon as this news was announced and as soon as we saw this candle get printed here, like literally within the day. This was a few hours after the announcement, and the day printed this freaking huge candle, right? It was an engulfing candle that engulfed almost a week, maybe a week and a half's worth of price action. And I told everybody, look, guys, the same you know, when I say that whenever you have a move like this, whether it's to the upside or to the downside, what you have to consider is, okay, is this one of those pumps that is a so what pump, or is it a pump that actually something that you need to consider? Well, that morning, what I saw this candle do was it recover not only the 200-day moving average that we lost, but also a ton of other key indicators that we were watching, right? Not including the 10-day moving average, this 20-day moving average. It recovered the 0.382 fib level that we pulled. Let me show you guys here, right? So that candle, if we take a fib retracement from our swing high to low here, you see how that daily candle actually tried to recover this 0.382 fib level pulled from our swing high here, which was our last cycle high, to our cycle low. And so this candle was an actual candle that I was like, okay, this might be a pay attention to me kind of candle, right? Because it recovered a ton of moving indicators that would I guess how you say, they're indicators that would tell you that the bears are losing steam and that the bulls are once again trying to control the price action, right? Are trying to regain the momentum. However, what I also say to our guys and to the people that are watching, right, whenever we do TA, in order for us to actually take this pump seriously, well, what does it have to do? It certainly did recover some key indicators that we were watching, but the next important step is, and always will be, can it close consecutive candles, daily candles, above those key indicators? And as you saw here, it didn't take long before this price came crashing all the way back down. Right around this $26,000 area that Bitcoin has been hovering around for almost 2 weeks. So this candle right here was a sell the news type of candle. Now, the unfortunate reality is, I know some people are saying, well, Jay, how could you possibly think, or how could you possibly know that that was a sell the news candle, or if it was a candle that would have continued to gain momentum? Well, the unfortunate reality is you can't really know, right? The best thing that you can do whenever you're analyzing the market is to take the totality of data available to you then, to the best of your abilities, and then make a decision at that moment in time, right? And so that morning, I hopped onto our Telegram chat, which if you are not subscribed to our Telegram chat, you should probably do so, because that's where I release all of this data first, right? We talk about it there first before we talk about it here on YouTube. And they got the news as soon as it came out. And I told them, look, do not FOMO into this green candle. Wait a few days and see if we can start closing days above these key indicators that we have been watching. And then you can be a little bit more confident buying into that candle, because then it would tell you that the bears are starting to lose control of the price and that the bulls are starting to regain some momentum. And what happened? The people that held off and were patient, well, guess what? Now they are in a much better buying opportunity than if you would have bought at the top of this candle that was printed on Tuesday. Okay. And it's not just me who shares this sentiment. Like I said, the bears are still currently in control of the market. And if you see here, this happened on Friday, the 1st of September. Even though it was only during a wick and it wasn't by much, we did surpass our last cycle low. Our last cycle low was at 25,350. And then this current cycle low that we have for the cycle of September is at 25,333. So it was only a wick lower by $17. But because we did wick lower than our last cycle low, this tells me that the market is still showing significant weakness. And some of those variables that we're going to consider why the market is still fairly weak, we're going to talk about a few of them in today's stream. Now, let's consider some price targets. What price can Bitcoin potentially head down to during this month of September if we get any more bearish news? And I think we are, right? At the very least, here in my local state of Arizona, prices are starting to creep up once again. We're going to go over the jobs report later. But if that job report was a bit stronger and inflation is still going up, which we will know for certain once the numbers come out, second week of September, then that's most likely going to mean that JP is going to increase the rate once again, which will provide even more downside momentum and headwinds on Bitcoin's price. If that were to happen, what are some levels that we are looking out for? Well, there's a few. First, we can take a fib retracement and take it from our bear market low to our swing high here, right? And we have some levels to look out for. Those of you familiar with Elliott wave theory know that we have completed a 5-wave sequence to the upside, right? And we are currently trying to finish up a wave 2. And those of you who are familiar will notice that we did already hit a minimum retracement for our wave 2, which is this 0.382 fib level here at 25,591. That is the minimum the price has to pull back in order for a wave 2 to be in. However, because there are still significant headwinds present over the current market, it's not going to be surprising if we head down lower. And the reason why it's not surprising, aside from the current market environment, is because that during wave 2s, right, because the overall trend, people are still sketchy of the overall trend, right, and people are still thinking that we are in a bear market, even though this we've printed higher highs and higher lows over the span of more than half a year now. There are significant people in the market that still consider us in a bear market, and that we're still going to head down lower. And that's one of the main reasons why during this wave 2, you always see sometimes it's almost certain, right? Maybe not so much for mature assets, but for new assets, for new altcoins, since we're talking about the crypto market here, it's almost certain that wave 2s will pull back much deeper into this 0.618 fib area to this 0.786 fib area, right? So that's going to give us a target at the very lowest, I believe personally, that we're probably going to hit somewhere along the lines of this 0.618 area. Let's draw a horizontal support line there, which is 21,731. And if we were to experience something that happened like in 2019, we could potentially wick down lower into this 0.786 fib area, which is at 18,983. Now, if Bitcoin was to travel into this very deep retracement area, I don't think that price lasts too long. Because what do we always say? This area right here, this 0.618 to the 0.786 fib level, right? That is the area of great value. People cannot resist buying into this price because it is such a significant discount from where we currently were, right? And people have recency bias. If they see that the price headed down to 20,000 or even lower here at 18,000, the most recent high in their memory is our high right here around 31,800. And so they're going to be like, wow, this is a significant discount. I'm going to buy in, especially people who are of the opinion that we are in a bull market. And that's me personally. I believe we're in a bull market, right? They're not going to resist buying into these prices right here, right? Now, let's see if we can find some confluence. Like I mentioned, right, we are currently in a wave 2 correction, right? Whether it's in or not is yet to be determined, right? Let me just go ahead and actually draw this out for you, for those at home, so you can see it, right? We have, starting from the bottom of our bear, right, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this right here makes up your macro wave 1. Now we are trying to finish this macro wave 2. Let's go ahead and draw that out. All right, it's an classic ABC correction, right? There's your A wave, your B wave right here, and a C wave, whether it's in or not, like I mentioned, is yet to be determined. And so if prices were to head lower, let's see where this C wave can potentially head down to. Well, we already went over some, which is this 0.618 and 0.786 fib retracement from our bear market lows pulled to our swing high here. What we can also do is do a fib extension to identify what are potential levels that we can look out for this correction, right? This is what you would call an expanded flat or an irregular flat. An irregular flat correction pattern is when this B wave goes beyond where this wave 5 terminated, right? During our macro wave 1. You see here, it's only slightly higher, but it is higher. So this would be considered an expanded or an irregular flat. If you guys want more details about correction patterns for Elliott wave, there's a ton of those resources out in YouTube. And I actually pull out a book for you guys here later on to show you so that you can learn more about it, right? But we can take a fib extension from the start of our A wave to the end and pull it to the termination of our B wave. And let's see if we can find some confluence here. Well, it seems like we have one area of confluence because this 1.618 extension here lines up pretty closely to our 0.618 fib retracement that we pulled earlier, right? Or between this 21,400 to 21,700 area, right? A very common retracement, extension level during these corrections, right? For this type of correction is this 1.236 level, which is around 23,891, and then this 1.618 level, right? And we're finding some confluence there because these two fib levels are very close to each other, right? And so if we were to head down lower, it seems like price is going to want to settle around this 21,400, 21,700 area. Now, personally, I don't think we head down any lower than that, aside from maybe a quick wick, because once again, right, Bitcoin's realized price is about 20,000, right? If you go over here, okay, I'm going to share this tab instead. This is a very useful website. It's called lookintobitcoin.com, where you could find Bitcoin's realized price. And Bitcoin's realized price is currently sitting at 20,303, right? Historically speaking, after the bear market is over and price has recovered this realized price level, Bitcoin does not have a tendency to want to head back down below there until the start of our bear or until the middle of our very next bear market. Right? You could see here, give me 1 second. Let me switch back over here my screen. Right? You could see here, Bitcoin wicked down below 20,000 during our wave 4 of 1 very shortly, right? This was like maybe a candle that lasted not even a whole day. This candle probably lasted a few hours and we closed above 20,000, right? So that's a very strong indicator that Bitcoin does not want to head back down its realized price, right? This is considered the fair market value for Bitcoin, and it does not want to head any lower than that. Okay, and so that's precisely the reason why I do not think that if we do come crashing down, that we are not going to see below $20,000 Bitcoin ever again. And if we do see it, it's only going to last for a few hours, maybe even a few minutes, just like it happened over here. Right? And also, let me go ahead and take some of these drawings out so it's a bit clearer for you guys. Right? This right here, this green trend line that I have drawn over here, this is a very generous long-term trend line that I've drawn for Bitcoin, right? We've broken down this upper trend line over here, but technically speaking, we are still printing higher lows, right? Higher low, higher low, higher low. Okay? And unless Bitcoin breaks this long-term trend line over here, then I would not have anything. I would not be worried about anything, right? In fact, I would be celebrating because that's just a better opportunity for me to buy into lower prices, especially if you're a new investor and you're only getting into the market now. You're still getting into very good prices, right? And so until Bitcoin breaks this trend line right here, which is the most generous trend line that I can draw out over this past year that we've had, and I wouldn't worry whatsoever, right? As far as any upside targets are concerned, if we take a fib retracement from our swing high here and take it to our current cycle low, right? Here's the level that we need to recover, right? First, we certainly need to recover that 20-day moving average at 26,361. What I would like Bitcoin to start closing days above that 20-day moving average, and even better if Bitcoin recovers this 0.382 fib level at 27,800, and once again starts closing days above that, consecutive days, right? That would indicate to me that the bears are losing control of the price and that the bulls are starting to want to take control and build momentum once again. Okay. That's as far as the upside price targets are concerned. I'm not going to go into too much detail about even higher targets because we have to focus on recovering these levels first. And then finally, probably the most important thing for Bitcoin to do, if it wants to break this bearish downtrend, right? This orange line that I have drawn out for you guys here, this is our 200-day moving average. Now, any time that we are below the 200-day moving average is when people would consider that we are in a bear market, right? Check this out. If I zoom out, you see for the overwhelming majority of the year, we've stayed above that 200-day moving average. And so you do not want to spend a significant amount of time below that 200-day moving average because the bears will get stronger and stronger and stronger because they're going to build momentum underneath that 200-day MA. And you don't want that to happen. Okay? So I would really like for the bulls, right? If you want this market to start turning bullish again, that's the most important target for us to recover currently, right? Recovering that 200-day moving average at 27,577, which isn't too far off from our 0.382 fib retracement, to be quite honest with you. All right, and then one more thing. I talked about this with our guys earlier this week on our Telegram chat. This right here is looking dicey. This purple line right here, this is our 50-day moving average. Okay? And if this 50-day moving average crosses below our 200-day, that is what market analysts call a death cross. Right? If we zoom out here, back all the way to 2021, you see right here, this is at the tail end of 2021, around December. You see when this purple line, which is our 50 DMA, crosses our 200 DMA, what happened? Throughout the time course of 2022, where did price exist? Below your 200-day moving average. See that? And that lasted for the entirety of 2022. Right? So we certainly do not want that to happen, right? We do not want that 50 DMA crossing below that 200 DMA once again. Okay? Oh, just a little extra for you guys here. This right here signifies the potential for the start of the bull market, right? When that 50 DMA crosses a 200 DMA, this is called the golden cross. Happen over here. So I'm going to leave it at this. We keep an eye on this right here. We do not want these two moving averages crossing together. Or even if they do cross, we do not want this 50 to stay below our 200 for an extended period of time because that is going to give the bears a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum, and we certainly do not want that to happen because we're feeling bullish right now, right? We want higher prices so that we can take some profits. But for those of you guys who have dry powder sitting on the side, this is a perfect opportunity for you to start DCAing in, right? I think we certainly still have a little bit more downwards price action to go, because of some of the topics that we're going to consider today. And so keep stacking that dry powder, DCA in small chunks, because I think we still have a little bit more downside to go. That way you will have some dry powder set on the side just in case we do see those lower prices, right? But if you're like Nate or if you're like Will, who just DCAs everything in once they get cash, it's not a bad strategy either, right? It simplifies your DCA strategy, and regardless, you're getting into great prices, right? Anything below $2,000 Ethereum, anything below $30,000 Bitcoin is a fantastic buy opportunity for you guys. Okay, don't get too greedy because you missed out on 15,000 BTC and $800 Ethereum. Do not get greedy. Where we're headed, it doesn't matter if you buy it now. Okay, you're gonna get multiples on multiples on multiples in your capital. So do not get too greedy and start your DCAs in now. Right. That's all I have for you guys to get today on the TA. Josh, if you would like to add anything in there or anybody else in the group, please feel free to do so.
Don't really have anything to add. Just a question that I have for you. How typical is it after a cycle low comes in for a death cross to happen? And you don't really need to pull this up into the charts, but do you know how often in Bitcoin's history that death cross has happened after the bottom of a macro bear market bottom?
Personally speaking, I don't know how many times it has happened, but if it has happened during a bull market, I can tell you right now, it doesn't last a considerable period of time. Right. Let me share my chart with you guys one more time, just so that I can give you an example, because I always want people to have a visual. Right. So they have a visual to go with the explanation. It's going to be very quick. Give me 1 second here. Here we go. Let's go back to 2021. Oh, not on the chart. Here we go. On this chart right here. Let's go back to 2021. Right. You see, this was our initial top, the $65,000 top for Bitcoin. You see how this purple line, which is our 50 DMA, crossed below our 200-day moving average. This was the first death cross. Right. But we still had a significant amount of market participants that wanted to push Bitcoin's price higher. And so you see how this did not last for a significant period of time. Let's go ahead and take our time tool. So when it crossed, which is right here, to when it moved back up, that was about 3 months. Right. And you see this whole bull cycle right here, it did not cross, right? And this only happened really at the tail end of the 2021 bull market, right? If it does happen, it doesn't happen too often, right? See, here's a death cross there, but this is the entirety of that bull cycle. Look at that. You see how the 50 stays well above the 200? It doesn't happen, brother. It does not happen.
Gotcha. So if it does happen, it just doesn't happen that often, or
Yeah.
If it does happen, it just doesn't last that long, is what you're saying.
It does not last long.
So if in fact we do happen to see it, it's nothing that should really be alarming. What should be alarming is how long that 50-day stays under.
Gotcha. Precisely.
Okay, makes sense. Comments? Anything else from the panel before we move on?
Just keep an eye out for those macroeconomic problems in the economy. It's the charts are very important. Jay is obviously a wizard, but you can't take everything from one source. Take your charting, take your technical analysis, right? Put everything that you've learned together and make a decision. But charting, super important. If you can learn the skill, it will help you long term. It'll allow you to buy low prices, not just have to, ape in DC all the time. Personally, I chart here and there, not as good as Josh, not as good as Jay, but it helps me quite a bit in what I do. But again, it's just one aspect. So keep that in mind, right? Zoom out.
Yeah, that is one thing. Like, even with me, like, I ain't no wizard, of course, but, just understanding the resistance lines and support lines and all that alone is already going to give me a lot of confidence when I go to actually put money into the market and all that, so it's important to at least know the basics.
All right, sounds good. Let's go ahead and get into the first topic. Let's go ahead and get that pulled up. So we're going to be talking about the Greyscale SEC ruling that just came out earlier this week. Jay had alluded a little bit to it during the TA, but this article coming from CNBC.com. First Bitcoin ETF could be coming soon as court rules in favor of Greyscale over the SEC. I'm not going to sit here and cover the whole article. We're not going to do that. If you guys go to CNBC.com and just do a search for Greyscale, this article is going to pop up. What I want to do is I want to sort of get into a little bit of conversation here. Jay, you had brought it up. The first question that I have, I want to ask you, and then other panelists can answer it as well. But when the SEC initially declined Greyscale's application, they did it without providing any reasoning behind, they did it without explaining the reason for their denial. So my question, the first thing I want to know is, how common is it to reject a ruling without providing any explanation at all? Not only how common is that, but how unprofessional is that, in your opinion?
As far as how common, look, I think anybody who's been keeping up with the news within crypto over the last few years, especially the news surrounding the SEC and their ongoing battles with companies that are engaged with the cryptocurrency industry, you would know that the SEC issues out subpoenas and lawsuits, or not subpoenas, but lawsuits without any rhyme or reason, right? And unfortunately, they don't really have to give you a very detailed explanation of exactly why they're rejecting your proposal, right? Like in this case, Greyscale wanted to convert their Bitcoin trust into a spot ETF. And the SEC really doesn't have to give you any reason aside from, well, we don't think it meets our guidelines. That's it. And it was precisely the reason that they give within this case, right? It just it doesn't satisfy our current standard of I guess safety rails in place, right? It did not satisfy their standards of safety in order for them to make that transition. And that was precisely one of the reasons why Greyscale decided to take this case to the Second Court of Appeals, right? Because the reality is the safety rails that Greyscale has for their spot ETF that they proposed and the rails that they had for their trust were pretty much the same. And every single thing that the SEC requested, they've also fulfilled. And so what the actual ruling was, if you guys take a look into the article that we're going to provide, is that the court decided you cannot make or reject a proposal like Greyscale's if two products are very similar, right? You can't make different rules for very similar product. At the very least, you can't do that without giving a solid explanation as to why, right? Because not only is that very unclear, and I think anybody here will share my sentiment in that every big actor that is involved within this industry, for example, like Brian Armstrong and Coinbase, what is their one of their primary complaints when it comes to the SEC? Right? Well, we're trying to be good faith actors here and ask you guys to work with us in order for us to establish some kind of clear regulatory guidelines for the industry so that you don't push our company and other companies like out and the entire cryptocurrency industry outside of the United States, right? And so it's not like this is the first instance of unclear regulatory guidelines or just unclear rules in general from the SEC, right? This is one of many, right? And it certainly is extremely unprofessional, right? I think anybody here would agree to me that if you apply this to across every single avenue of life, if somebody were to say like, you know what, like let's say for a job interview, if you went to a job interview and you were talking to the manager of the place that you wanted to work at, and they said, you know what, sorry, but you're not exactly what we're looking for. And you ask, well, like, is there anything specific that you would like to point out to me? Because it would really help in my search for jobs if I could identify the issues that companies like you might have with my resume. And then they tell you, nah, sorry, there's nothing really in particular. You're just not really what we're looking for, right? Like, you'd be right to be upset, and two, it's extremely unprofessional, right? And apply that standard across every single avenue in life, and you'll probably come to the exact same conclusion, right? And this is exactly the reason why I think the SEC is losing cases left and right, right? And the cool thing about this is, right, so this was from the Second Court of Appeals. I think this was in Washington. And so this can now be set as legal precedent, right? Because they won in the Second Court of Appeals. So it's just win after win after win for the crypto space, right? Now, like I said earlier, we need a little bit more momentum in order for us to have continued positive price action. But it certainly isn't surprising that the SEC is losing left and right, because they're very unprofessional and because they don't really give any clear reasoning as to why they're rejecting all of these different proposals, right? And so that's my personal take on it. I certainly not surprising. And I think that's also the reason why these market pundits, right? I believe they increased the likelihood of a Bitcoin spot ETF being approved this year to 70% and 90% by next year, right? Because of what happened with this case. And I think it's because this case has set legal precedent that a lot of people are really bullish about the spot ETF approvals, right? So that's all I have for this subject, or for that question, I guess. So I'd like to get everybody else's input.
Yeah, actually, you're right about that, Jay. Because I mean, look what they did already, right? They, I mean, nobody saw it coming, right? But the SEC already pushed back the spot Bitcoin ETF, right? They already pushed it back, and I mean, I can really see them probably waiting for the pivot before they actually go ahead and say, yeah, let's go ahead and go with that. But I do believe that they're going to end up, and this is going to go right along with all these L's that the SEC has taken, right? They're going to end up firing Gensler. And after firing Gensler, that's when somebody new is going to come in. And most likely what's going to happen is that they're just going to be like overcorrect, you know what I mean? Gary is just like, everything is a security. Nobody's going to do anything in crypto. We're falling behind. People are leaving the US, they're going over to Asia and all that. And so they're going to fire him, and somebody's going to come in and they're going to be like, oh, we're just accepting everything at this point. Like, no, nothing's a security. And I think they're just going to overcorrect, quite frankly. But yeah, that's just my take on it. It is very interesting though well, let's just say it's a lot of fun watching these guys who are so good all of a sudden get loss after loss after loss. It's like, fuck you, dude. I love it.
I think the thing that is so confusing. So, like, I understand the reason for the SEC. I think the core idea behind their mission, it makes sense, right? You want to protect investors from, institutions and from just terrible investments. So, like, look, it's noble. I understand it. But Brendan, hop in here. How much is the SEC overstepping? And shouldn't they have an idea? Shouldn't they already know what the court ruled is pretty much status quo, that you can't take two things that are very similar and make different rulings against them? Like, why does it take a judge, a 3-panel judge, to bring that to light? Isn't that something that the SEC should already understand and put into practice?
That's a fantastic question. You'd think so, because it's their job, right? I'm Gary Gensler. I'm the head of the SEC, and my job is to figure out securities and to regulate them. Okay, what's a security? Well, we know what a security is based on, previous court cases and the Howey test. Okay, let's take these 4 things, and I'm not going to go over, we've gone over in past episodes about what makes a security, but you have to take these 4 individual aspects and say, okay, is this 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it all 4 of these things? And if so, it's a security. Yeah, they should know what a security is. It's literally their job. But here's the problem. Crypto is a fairly unregulated space. They are worried that it's going to run rampant and that they have no control. And so they're trying to overstep their sanctions, what they were built to do. And part of the problem, right, is they don't really, how do I phrase this? They don't really have anyone that tells them what to do. Gary Gensler's not elected. He doesn't respond to the people, right? He doesn't owe us anything. Sure, he gets put into place by a regime. By the way, the previous regime, not the current regime. And so it's this weird thing where they're out in this ether, not the cryptocurrency, in just this weird place where the SEC is their own commission, not elected by the people, and no politicians really have say in what they do. And so it's a really weird place that they feel like they can do whatever they want. However, as the courts show very clearly, we have a process, we have a law, and you have to follow it. The SEC has not been following the law of what a security is. They just want to take everything that is sold in any open market and call it a security. Hell, if they had the opportunity, they'd call gold a security. If they had the opportunity, they'd call the American dollar a security. Literally anything that they can get their grubby hands on, they want to call a security because they want to be able to regulate it. Now, let's also remember, okay, just because the SEC lost to Greyscale, everyone's like, oh yeah, Greyscale, the ETF's approved. No, it's not approved. It's not approved yet. So it means that the SEC lost this case, and now they have to either approve Greyscale's ETF, right, spot ETF, or come back with more regulatory clarity into why they are not going to approve it. Now, take a step back, okay? You bring out, okay, I'm not approving your ETF because, I'm just worried that you don't have the right safeguards in place. Even though, as Jay pointed out, it's nearly the same safeguards that they've been putting in previously. Okay, so that doesn't really make sense. The court says they're very alike, the safeguards that are in place. What they're asking you to approve is very similar. So if you don't want to approve them, you can't just say, well, it's not the right, safety rails in place. You have to have more regulatory clarity. And so if the SEC comes back and says, okay, this is why we're not going to approve it, what does that show about the SEC? It makes them very, very whimsical. Now, we already know that they are just shooting their shot all over the place to try to, capture as much as they can. But think about this. They say this is not a security because we're worried about the security in your consumers. Well, judge says, well, you haven't said that previously, so that's not the case here. Oh, no, that's not why we don't think it should be an ETF. It's because, we don't like Greyscale or whatever the case may be. They come up with a new reason not to approve it. That just shows the SEC is even further away from understanding their own commission and their own job, right? So that's why when we say Greyscale 1, SEC has not yet to approve, but it's very likely that they will approve an ETF in the near future, because how can they just be so whimsical about why they don't want to approve something? Case A, we can't say no because of that. Let's try this way. It doesn't work. And they're already being cast in a very, very poor light as a government agency, a very big government agency, may I add, with a lot of funds and a lot of money behind them. Yeah, that's what I got.
Bro. Yeah. So something you said there just triggered something in my head, right? One of the primary reasons why the SEC seems like they have carte blanche when it comes to suing these people left and right, it's because, one, they have a lot of money. They have a lot of money. They're a federal institution. And so it's like they have a bottomless bag, right? Damn it. What's that bag of holding, right? I forgot my D&D terms there. They have a bag of holding, right? And in that bag of holding, they got unlimited amounts of money to pull from, right? And the reason why they can sue people and not really give them a good reason as to why they're being attacked this way is because most companies, when they're sued by the SEC, they do not have enough money for a prolonged legal battle with this institution who has a bottomless bag of holding of money. Right. And so that's why it's actually really excellent that companies like Coinbase, right, that have a lot of money, like Binance, and then obviously Richard Hart, right? You're fighting with a rumored billionaire here. It's good that they're the ones that are going to have to fight this fight because they're actually going to be the people who are going to, stand 10 toes deep into the ground and tell Gary and the SEC, look, you're not gonna bully me out of this industry, right? You want to attack me unfairly? Well, guess what? I may not have as much money as you, but I certainly have enough money to hire some pretty damn good lawyers that will run circles around. Okay, I mean, for example, look at the laundry list of companies that just settle outside of the court, right? The most recent one that comes to memory is Impact Theory, with Tom Bilyeu, right? He just settled out of court because of I think he was selling an NFT product, and then the SEC said, look, that's an unregistered security, we're going to sue you, right? And Tom was just like, look, I just want to get my product out the market, we're going to go pay a fine, and then you let us do our business. And that's how most companies and most actors interact with the SEC, because they don't want to prolong this legal battle, because they would rather be out there producing their products, giving their products and services to the public, and actually taking care of their company and their employees in that way, right? They're like, well, we're not going to extend this legal battle with you because we're just going to go bankrupt, right? That's the unfortunate reality of the situation, and that's one of the reasons, thank you, Brendan, why the SEC can just throw these they can just sue people left and right, because nobody's going to take them through an extended legal battle. But they've met their match when it comes to people like Richard Hart. I think Richard Hart will see this to the end. I don't think he settles out of court, right? He's going to make a spectacle out of it. And certainly Brian Armstrong of Coinbase has made his intentions very clear. You are not going to bully us out of the space. So get ready for a very long legal battle ahead of you, right? Because we've got money.
Jay, are you trying to imply that there's a government agency out there that's trying to extort people? Because I find that very hard to believe, that the United States of A, people in charge, SEC, CIA, FBI, ATF, whatever the hell, that they would just pass these arbitrary rules that would go out and make Americans' lives better. I find that very hard to believe.
Bro, you know what, Will? I want to kind of elucidate this point even further, because this is not something that you just observe in high levels of industry like we're talking about now. Let's say I'm going to give you a personal story. All right. Let's say you get a parking ticket, right? I got a parking ticket. I had my truck towed sometime last year, and it was parked in a spot that was a residential spot. So whoever reported the vehicle there fucked up. And the company that was involved, right, with my HOA said that it wasn't our fault, it was their fault, and you could take them to small claims court. Do you know how many people have the patience and the time to be like, okay, I'm going to take these guys to small claims court because they did something wrong? I am probably one of the few people who are like, yo, you're not going to get money out of me, and so unless you reimburse me for this, I'm going to take you to small claims court. Right? There are very few people who would go through the trouble of a legal situation, and they would just take the L. Like, fuck it. It's like, okay, I had to pay like $150, $200. Forget it. I'm not even going to bother with it. Right? But when you have people who are not willing to take shit, then it becomes a different story. And so I think, look, say what you want about Coinbase, about Armstrong, about Richard Hart, but these are the people that we need fighting out there, because they actually have the money and the resources in order to stand up to these bullies and say, look, you're not going to push us out of the system, right? That's wrong tree you're barking up. not that guy.
Yeah, Jay, it's interesting because what was the entire United States founded on? Why did we secede from England? Taxation without representation. People taking our money without the opportunity for us to have a fair trial and a fair say into what we're doing. How very much different is what's going on with the SEC and what our literally our country was built on. I see some similarities here. Now, I want to go one step further. Zenith brought up a good point, and we've talked about this in previous streams, is that there's three things that can happen with crypto, right, when it comes to crypto regulation. The first is that, one, it's regulated and it's a security. Two, it's regulated as a commodity or some combination of both, right? Likely, most likely, some are securities, but most are commodities. But then there's this third option, right? In that there's real, good, new regulation that is focused specifically on cryptocurrencies, and it's not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, right? We have to realize that our markets are evolving, our assets are evolving, and we might need to evolve our current structure of assets around this evolution. And I think that's a really good point that Zenith brings up, because we've talked about it on past streams, and there's many different ways that we can see regulation happen, but it needs to happen fairly, and it needs to happen smartly. It needs to happen that doesn't stifle the industry.
Yeah. Bro, another good point there. I don't know how many of you guys here listen to Dr. Peterson, but he talks about this situation a lot, right? Zenith brought it up, you brought it up, that the SEC is trying to apply very old rules to new assets. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong to do that, but those old rules they're old, they're archaic, right? They're not changing. And you need those things to change. Like I mentioned, Dr. Peterson, he talks about that all the time. He's like, look, there is a need for history, right? There is a need for the old structure, but you need the people, right? The new innovators within the current time to innovate and to fight these archaic structures, because they're not changing. And if you capitulate to those types of archaic structures, what happens is you become subjugated to a tyranny, right? And so it's not really far-fetched to say that in some instances, the American government does like to tyrannize its people to some degree, right? And the SEC is a very good example of doing this, right? They like to tyrannize people and businesses when they come after them with these types of lawsuits, right? And so you need people like Armstrong and in Coinbase, like people at CZ and Binance, like Richard Hart, that are going to fight them, because we do need to update the current standards from the old way, right? We need to transition from those old archaic standards to something new. That doesn't necessarily mean that we throw everything out, right? You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't throw everything out the window, right? But you do need a fusion of the old regulations, right, and new regulations that are being created now. And we've spoken about this before. Some of our lawmakers, right, some of our congressmen and senators are already working for proposals for these new types of regulations, right? We need those to combine, right? Like Voltron. We need those things to combine in order to create something for new industries like crypto that are sprouting out left and right, right? You're going to need something like that for AI. You're going to need something like that for Web3, right? Because it's the new internet. And so we do need this coming together, right? You can't get rid of the old and just go with the new, right? You need both of them together. But you also have to tell the Gary, look, you can't be so adamant about not accepting anything new, because what you're doing is obviously not working. You're taking L's left and right. So let us come in here and help you make some new regulations and be a little bit more open to that idea, please, because we all want this market to thrive, and it's only going to benefit the United States as a whole. Sorry, go ahead.
Jay, isn't that where you say, okay, boomer? Right? That's the thing that, like, old money has always had an issue with. Like, this has been the problem in crypto now for quite a while. These old players don't want to come over to the crypto space simply because it's like memes and joking around, and everyone's like all these old TradFi guys are all like in their nice business suits and it's all professional. They're like, what is going on over here? You got a bunch of guys in freaking beanies and cowboy hats and weird stuff saying, hodl to the moon. What's going on? A dog coin? That's money? Well, it's like, that's the reason why. Yeah, I mean, think about it this way, right? History rhymes, right? And it's never the exact same thing, right? It just rhymes, but you're able to use those old, like, say, rules, right, and start creating newer rules and stuff like that. And so, I mean, ultimately, like, when you're looking at things, it's well, you need to be able to evolve, right? And that's what a lot of these older folks, traditional finance, they just don't want to do it. Easy as that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why it's so important, why we need updated regulation. Okay. So right now, the way that the SEC is responding, it's like, so imagine, dead of summertime, you're out at a cookout, right? And a couple mosquitoes come over and they bite you for that first time. All right. Yeah. They become a nuisance, right? And they come over and they start nibbling on you a little bit more. And then all of a sudden they start to get annoying, right? And then all of a sudden, they continue to just bite the shit out of you and all the guests you have in your backyard, right? And then what are you going to do? You're going to call up some sort of pest control company. You're going to call up Nate and be like, hey, I need you to get out here and I need you to spray the shit out of my backyard, all right? That is exactly what is happening with the SEC right now. All right. The SEC, if they are not put in check and if regulations are not updated, they're going to be driving companies out of the United States. We've talked about this in prior episodes before, how if the SEC continues to foster an anti-crypto sort of environment, then Coinbase, other large platforms, other large crypto digital assets are going to relocate out of the United States. And that puts the United States at a complete disadvantage when it comes to this stuff. But Jay, please continue. I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, those are really good points because in order for us to maintain the number one spot, you are going to want to have the highest appreciating asset of all time to have a place in your country, right? Because otherwise you're going to lose that number one spot to China, right? And we certainly don't want that happening, right? And just kind of going back to what Nate said earlier, it is important to kind of realize that there are going to be some bad actors in the space that don't want to change because they know how to take advantage of the old rules, right? But that's where all of these innovators come into place, right? Because you do have to stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And be able to look out into the horizon and see, look, you're giving me a strong, solid base to stand on here, right? But because I have a little bit higher vantage point than you, right? You have the high ground. shout out Anakin. But because you're able to see from a higher vantage point, then you could see things that maybe some of the old guys aren't able to see now, right? And so you do need a combination of both the old and the new in order to create something that'll move the industry forward, that'll make whoever takes over the SEC next, whether Gary gets his job back, I don't think so, or somebody else new takes his place, we're going to have to create something that satisfies both people within the crypto industry, our regulators and our lawmakers, and then that industry as a whole, right? Because like Josh alluded to earlier, there's certainly a large portion of people working for that industry that actually have the consumer's best interest in mind. I know it might not necessarily be that obvious to people, right? But they wouldn't. But that industry wouldn't exist, right? If there wasn't any need for them, right? And there is a need for them because people do get scammed left and right. That's
definitely is a fight going on, and you're right, Jay. That's how we evolve, right? So yeah, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and then we create something new using that platform that was originally there. And Brandon, you had something, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. So I think you just highlighted a comment that said, Elizabeth Warren and her oversight committee kind of oversees the SEC. So essentially, the Inspector General oversees the SEC. That's their job, but that's an independent office within the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and it's a whole lot. But yes, Elizabeth Warren has a lot of say in her commission. Her has a lot of say within that, and that's a bit scary, right? We already know she doesn't like crypto, so we already know that she might be pulling some strings or giving some under the table information to Gary, saying, "Hey, you got to go after these cryptos. People are going to get wrecked. They're securities. What are you doing? You're not to-" So is there pressure from outside sources and Gary might be acting on that? It's a possibility. I don't want to speculate on that. All I can say is that Gary's not doing his job. However, I want to just, maybe we're getting close to the end of this topic, but there's a class action lawsuit against Uniswap that actually got thrown out by a U.S. judge this week. And the essentially what they were saying was that Uniswap allowed scams to take place on their platform, and they allowed assets that were securities to be sold or swapped on their platform, and therefore they violated the Securities and Exchange Commission's commission, right? That they didn't register as someone that sells securities. And the judge is like, what are you talking about? The Uniswap didn't sell these coins. The scammers were the people that created the coins and allowed them to be proliferated on different platforms. And therefore, Uniswap had nothing to do with these. And in their ruling, they literally said, and I quote, "the crypto commodities, Ethereum and Bitcoin." And I think that's very relevant that a judge has actually come out and said and stated a precedent that not only is Bitcoin a commodity, but Ethereum is a commodity. And if Ethereum is a commodity, then a fork of Ethereum, Pulse Chain, would also be considered a commodity. And a lot of other coins and platforms built off of Ethereum would also be a commodity. So I know that this is loosely connected because it involves a class action lawsuit about, Uniswap potentially violating Security and Exchange Commission rules, but the judge threw it out. Not even going to trial. We're throwing this case out.
Well, you know why they did that though, right? They had Coinbase.
Yeah.
You remember what happened with Coinbase, right? They freaking lost, and then Coinbase sued them. And all of a sudden, now they're going with Uniswap. The judge is like, it's the same thing as Coinbase. What are you guys doing? And just throws it out. That's what I see out of that.
Not a commodity.
Bro,
not commodity.
Bro, that's such a good point. I think I saw a ton of different articles talk about this, but one of the things that really caught my attention was they kind of compared this to you know how places like Facebook and Instagram, they're considered platforms and not publishers, right? Because a platform would be free of any legal implication from people coming onto their website and promoting things like hate speech, racism, and stuff like that, right? Because they're just a business providing a service, right? And they're not able to discriminate between people using their service, right? And so people are allowed to put and say whatever they want on their platforms, right? Versus somebody who's a publisher where you are held liable, right, for people saying X thing or promoting X product on your platform or on your website. And that kind of reminded me of this thing that was going on with Uniswap, right? Well they're being accused of allowing these scam tokens to exist on their platform, but Uniswap is just like, look, man, like we're just providing a service, right? We can't vet every single one of these freaking tokens that come onto our service. And so that's precisely the reason why I think the judge threw that out. Now you can make your argument and be like, well, Uniswap, if you're over here letting people use your platform for these tokens, how come you're biased towards some tokens and not others, right? It's kind of because we know that they delisted Hex on their front end, right? And it's kind of similar to the argument where people are like, look, Facebook, if you're purporting yourself as a platform and not publisher and as not a publisher, and so you are protected under, I think it was like Section 230 or something like that, right? They have some provisions that protect them for being sued because they're a platform and not a publisher. But why are you policing some of these comments and not others, right? If you are indeed a platform, why are you banning some comments and not others? And in this case, the Uniswap is like, well, okay, we're not liable for scam tokens on our website, but you're very selective about who you choose to let come onto your platform. So it's kind of interesting.
All right. If you guys haven't done it already, go ahead and smash that like button. Make sure you guys leave us a solid comment. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Go ahead, hop into the description and find our Telegram link. Let's do a little mid-show break real quick. I want to get a little panel. I want to get a little audience involvement. We're getting a lot of comments on the hats tonight, guys. A lot of people are digging the hats. So this is what I want to know. If you guys think Will has the best hat of all the panelists, I want you guys to put a 1 in the chat. If you guys think Jay has the best hat, I want you guys to put a 2. And if you think Brendan has the best hat selection going on tonight, I want you guys to put a 3 in the chat. Let's go ahead and get those things rolling in. So while we got that rolling in, Will, what made you select that hat tonight?
So this is my work hat, believe it or not. This keeps the sun off of my face, and I just saw it in the back of my truck, and when Brendan put a hat on, I grabbed this hat, threw it right on. This is my work hat, baby.
I like it. Hey, Brendan, how many hats do you have in your wardrobe, bro? Like, I feel like every single time we get a camera zoom, you got a different hat on.
You know, you gotta switch it up once in a while. Got to keep people guessing. I may have 1 or 2 left to pull out of the wardrobe. I don't have all my hats here currently on me, but I do fancy a good hat now and again. Now it's funny because I don't wear hats that often, but I have some nice hats. I have some casual hats. I have some cryptocurrency hats. And I don't know. I don't think Cardano's a security either. Just throwing that out there. Not financial advice, but it's like me some hats. Are you mad about hats?
I'm not mad about hats at all. I like the hat selection.
I'm not gonna lie, y'all are hilarious as hell because like all I did is I just got on. I'm like, okay, guys, let's do the show, and I'm just looking at all of you guys like, what is this? Confusing the crap out of me.
Josh, you had a pretty nice hat there in the beginning. Don't sell yourself short. There's a 4.
It was a Ravens.
There's a 4
beanie,
in there.
But it was
it's a hat. That's a hat. Good sir.
I got rid of it. I got to let that bald head shine. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, let's go ahead and transition. All right. So next article we're going to be talking about the August 2023 jobs reports have come in. So jobs report added 187,000 jobs. That is up from the estimates. However, the unemployment rate rises from 3.5 to 3.8%. Brendan, I want to pull you in here. I know that we were worried about sticky inflation. How do you make sense of a rising number of added jobs, but the unemployment rate has come up as well? How do you make sense of that, and what does that do for any inflation that may be sticking around?
It's a great question. The first thing I'll say is anytime you see numbers that come out, anytime that you see news come out, make sure that you think for yourself before you take someone else's opinion, including my own, to heart. I don't trust every number that I see that comes from the government. I don't trust every news article written about the numbers that come from the government. And you really have to be a free thinker, and you really have to come to your own conclusions about what is happening within the market, what are the driving forces, and what is manipulating potentially now and in the future. Now, I'm not saying everything's being manipulated. I'm just saying what factors are manipulating the market and having an effect on the market moving forward. Now, I've said multiple times that we don't see a true reduction in inflation down to 2% until the job market softens. Now, does this job market look softened to you? Okay, maybe a little bit. And if you believe what the economists tell you, or the people writing about what the economists tell you, they say that the job market softening now has a 90% chance that we are not going to increase the rates this month, right? That the Fed is not going to increase the rates this month. And I tell you, 90% doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem right to me at all. And you have to then look deeper and say, if they're telling you that the economists are telling you 90% chance that we're going to pause rates, but the job market is barely softened, that we're now seeing an uptick in energy costs, right? So we're going to see an increase probably in energy cost inflation. We still are seeing the sticky numbers in core inflation. Something doesn't add up here. Something doesn't add up. And for me personally, yes, the job market has slightly softened, but we're still seeing rates rise, right? We're still seeing the average amount that people are making rise. We're still adding jobs at a very good chunk, if you believe how many jobs are being added are true. And to be honest, if you ask me, just to give you a really rough number, we probably need to see inflation at the 5% to 6% level. Unemployment to be at the 5% to 6% level to really see inflation drive down to that 2% number. Now, 4%, over 4% core inflation is high, okay? What happens when energy and housing costs rise again, which we're seeing? Well, we're going to see an increase in overall inflation. And so, yeah, the job market has softened a little bit, but nothing compared to what we actually needed to do to reduce inflation to 2%. And therefore, it's almost, to me, like this is no news. We really haven't seen anything change. It's almost status quo. And therefore, you say, why are economists changing from 78% to 90% pause if nothing's changed, if there's no real new news? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And you know what? We're getting into a time where, you know, we're getting into the primary season when it comes to the 2024 presidential race. You know, we've already had one debate. We covered that debate last week for the Republican side of things. So we're starting to get more and more political ads. We're starting to get more and more, you know, comments out there from politicians. And of course, as we get closer to the election time, you're going to start hearing the normal comments that you hear about employment. You know, oh, you know, we want employment to be as low as possible and all that stuff. Well, that makes sense, sure, if inflation isn't tearing through the roof, right? So if inflation is tearing through the roof and you have extremely low unemployment, that is a recipe for disaster. That just means that inflation is going to continue to go up. You need to see that unemployment rate increase if you want this inflation to come back down. And it's been that way since, you know, for the last 60 years. The problem is that's not going to make popular headlines. So people aren't going to get out there and see it. Look, nobody wants to see people get laid off. I certainly don't want to see people get laid off. And in the same manner, nobody wants to see energy prices skyrocket. Nobody wants to see a gallon of milk go up. Nobody wants to see butter and poultry and you know, grass-fed beef. Nobody wants to see those prices go up either. All right. So it's really a tricky balance right now. And I agree with you when something doesn't make sense. Something doesn't make sense. I don't see how there's a 90% estimate that rates are going to be paused. It looks pretty much the same. I agree 100% with what you're saying. Does anybody else on the panel have any comment?
Yeah, so back in July, I was saying that more than likely we are going to be getting July as a raise, right? Or sorry, it was a pause. And then we were going to get another pause, and then we were going to get 2 more raises. And then I was saying, you know what, not Gary, Jerome always says that he loves to kind of overshoot just a little bit, right? And I was like, I bet you we get 3. And the more and more we're going down, the more and more like through the months, the more and more I'm seeing it's probably going to be 3 raises. The other thing too is that inflation, we may end up running into a bit of an issue because like as of right now, the Pacific Ocean is in an El Nino year, and that means that it's colder than normal. And so historically, what this means for like Europe and all these other countries is that it's just going to be overall colder winter, right? Well, that's going to make energy prices shoot way up because a lot of people are going to be using a lot of, well, heating, right? There's a lot of kind of things kind of going here where it's like I don't know if the Fed is really going to be able to sort of thread that needle without kind of breaking something. And it's kind of funny that the jobs market has been super sticky so far. Personally, I think they might end up, well, 3. I could see 3 overall instead of 2. Yeah, maybe an extra raise in the rates might do it. My only worry is that it's not enough, and they feel like they need to like do something drastic. Because once we start hitting that end of the year, that transition from 23 to 24, man, that's when it's going to be like very close. We either have it, we're locked in, we're good, we've achieved what we need to, or like, hey, something needs to happen here because maybe there's not enough unemployed people.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, Biden is taking a big fat L, bro. I'm telling you, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that guy is going to get out. Whether I know that he's the incumbent, so I don't think anybody's gonna run against him, man. But Jesus, this guy's on his way out. There's absolutely no way, right? Because Josh kind of said it earlier. I know a lot of people might be asking, does the government actually want unemployment to rise to bring inflation down? And the unfortunate reality is, yes, they do. Right. What we're talking about here in this podcast, we're saying the quiet part out loud. If you look back in all of the Fed meetings, right, this is a topic that has been broached before by the people in the legacy media who are in the audience asking JP about this or that after the press conference, right, when he opens it up for questions. And he's always going to explain that in a way that doesn't make them sound too bad, right? But that's why they call it softening of the labor market, right? Because he doesn't want to go out and explicitly say, yeah, we need people to lose their jobs, we need people to get laid off, right? Because the unfortunate reality is, if people are still spending money, what's going to happen? Well, prices are still going to keep going up. Why? Because people are still spending money. And what happened? So, like, why do people need to lose their jobs or the labor market to soften in order for inflation prices to for inflation to go down, right? Because when people are not spending money, right, because they don't have their work, right, which means they're probably only going to spend money on their necessities, right, which is housing, their utilities, gasoline, right? They're not going to have any money to spend on leisure activities or liabilities for that matter, right? And so that's going to provide downwards price pressure on the market, right? So these prices are going to start coming down because people are not willing to spend money because they don't have as much expendable income to spend on the market. And so that's the unfortunate reality. But they will never say this. But that's exactly what's going to happen. That's what needs to happen. And because people are probably going to lose their jobs over the course of the next year, for the labor market to soften to the degree that JP is satisfied with in order for him to stop increasing the rates, well, that's not going to look too good during the presidential election. Not only is every single Republican going to come up on that stage and say, well, a lot of people unemployed right now. Interest rates are extremely high. How do you think that's going to make Joe Biden look on that debate stage? If he even has the...
oh, man. He's not... Oh, jeez.
Even if he has the capacity to stand up there and debate, right? Maybe they shoot him up with adrenaline like he did with Donald Trump last year during the 2020 election. There's absolutely no way, right? If they throw that at him, well, employment numbers are really high, and then interest rates were also really high not too long ago. What do you got to say for that, Joe? It's Trump's fault. He's been out of office, man. You try to indict him X amount of times. I don't think he has anything to do with this. He's going to take so many fat L's, bro. I guarantee you. The way that this is shaping up to be, that guy does not have an out. He does not have an out. He better have a good fucking script writer or a good speech writer or good debate writer, because man, he's not going to be ready for that debate stage.
True,
No
and then
matter who the Republican
shove it up.
candidate is.
Bro, it's like I almost want, part of me wonders some of the time, like, is this all an elaborate ruse? Is it, or maybe not ruse, is this all like some elaborate ploy to drop Biden as like the fall guy? Is this like they're kind of just scrambling to pick up the pieces as best they can? Or is it all just like a whole bunch of incompetence? Or is it all just like a big happy, like, oh, there's just a whole bunch of spaghetti being thrown at the wall, and some of it sticks and some of it's like crazy, some of it's good, some of it's bad? Like, man, what a world we live in. Just like just sit back and look at it through a glass window. This is this is America.
Let me just make a point real quick, Brendan, and then I'll turn it over to you. So, in the past, we had politicians that would disagree in public, but they would understand each other in private. I think those days are long past us. So listen, I completely understand that, that Biden is, definitely taking an L here, but I also think that this supersedes just the two-party system. I believe it's both Republican and Democrats, because I don't think they're being truthful and honest with each other anymore at this point. I think it's going to take a real person to get up there and say, listen, here's the tough nitty gritty. This is the true facts right here. Okay. If you don't want to be paying an arm and a leg for beef, if you don't want to be paying an arm and a leg for milk, if you don't want your gas bill to be through the roof, then we need to see unemployment coming up. Because what's going to happen is if these interest rates continue to go up, all right, that's exactly what's going to happen. And the Fed is really only going to get one shot at this. So they need to make sure that they are 100% honest when it comes down to the decisions that they make over the next 6-month period. They're only going to get one shot at this, and I'll tell you why. Because if we get into a period where we have high inflation and then we start to see that unemployment rate come up, then we get into a period of stagflation, which is even worse to think about than right now. All right. If we get into a period of stagflation where both the interest and the unemployment are through the roof, that's an even worse economy than what we're sitting in right now. And it's just unbelievable how much politics has just crept into every single crevice nowadays, to where people aren't even honest with each other anymore. But Brendan, I'm going to go ahead and pop it on over to you. I don't know if that spoke any or, spoke to any thoughts as well.
No, definitely. I mean, you mentioned stagflation. Stagflation in the 70s, do you know how long it lasted? It literally lasted from 1973 to 1982. Almost a decade of high inflation and high unemployment. Okay? That's a problem. That's a big problem. And that's a big worry. And I will give JP credit in this case. I feel like, is learning from his mistakes in the past and is worried out of his mind by two things: inflation and government spending. Okay. Now, he doesn't get to choose what happens with government spending, although he's spoken his mind on it. And to Jay's point, he hasn't said we need unemployment to go up to reduce inflation. No, he says, our job is to get inflation down. And we want to make sure we have a strong labor market and continually do so. However, and I almost quote, however, in the past, anytime there has been high inflation, it didn't recede until the job market had high unemployment. And so what is he telling you? Every time that we've been able to get high inflation down to a low number is with the opposite correlation to unemployment in the job market. So he is literally telling you, until we see high unemployment, 5 to 6%, we're going to have a hard time curbing inflation. He literally told you that without telling you that. In fact, in my opinion, he literally said that. But he's not allowed to say that. So he said, historically. Okay, he said, historically, that's what we see. So what is he trying to tell you? History repeats itself, my friends. And we have to have that happen now if we want to see inflation down. And like Josh said, stagflation is one of the worst possible scenarios, and something that we're kind of seeing right now really potentially drag its head. And again, it took 10 years for them to get rid of the stagflation in the 70s, and they can't afford that to happen again, because guess what? These politicians need to pad their fucking pockets.
Damn. You know, okay, so with that being said, then how would you, like, as Jerome, what would you do then at that point without breaking something, obviously, because he's gonna have to break something, otherwise that's gonna happen. What would you do, like, if you were to give him some advice?
That's a great question, Brendan. I think that's a great question. Take that.
You know, first of all, I'm not a financial expert. I don't give financial advice, but I've studied the markets a bit, and I've studied economics a bit. Again, I wouldn't want to be in his. First of all, I wouldn't want to be in his position. He has a no-win job. There's nothing that he does in this scenario that is going to be a win-win. However, let's just look at the policies that he started. The first thing that he said was, we are starting. This inflation is transitory. Okay, it's just happening because of supply chain issues. It's happening because of some black swan events in the market, but it's not going to stick around, and therefore we don't have to worry about it. Fast forward a few months. Okay, we're starting to see some real inflation. We might need to start raising some rates. Fast forward to 3 months ago, and he's like, we have a serious problem on our hands. The government is spending far too much money. Inflation is sticking around way too much. And the only thing that I can do, literally the only thing that I can do as the Fed chair is continue to raise rates. He doesn't have a lot of options. Either he raises rates, he keeps them stagnant, or he lowers them. We know he's not lowering them. We know that we're seeing high inflation still. We're still seeing a fairly strong job market. And so what's his only option? His only option is to raise rates, to the point where we might see an economic slowdown. In fact, we have to, in my opinion. We have to see a reduction in the job market. And the only problem, and this is the hardest job that he has as a Fed chair, is if he raises rates today, that doesn't affect the job market next month. That doesn't affect the inflation next month. That might affect it 3 months or 6 months down the road, right? So there's a lag between when they actually make a decision on rates and the effects that take place in the market later on. And that's the real hard time, has the rates that he's raised already enough to change the market and we just have to wait? Or does he need to raise the rates more to get inflation down faster, and he can't wait around long enough to see if those rates are going to make a difference or not? In my opinion, he's waited long enough, right? He can't wait longer to see if these raising of rates are going to bring the inflation rate down. We've already seen it a little bit, right? But if he doesn't raise the rates more and inflation turns around the next 2 months and goes up again, guess what? Now he's too late to the ball game again. And like I said, I think he's learned from his mistakes of being too late to raise inflation, and therefore he's going to err on the side of potentially raising rates too much. But again, it's a hard no-win scenario for him, in my opinion.
Yeah. You know, Giggles, he put this comment up here, and it's very real, right? Right now, we are kind of in a position where we've got a new financial system that we can now get involved in, and it will allow us to be able to escape this oncoming issue that's going to be popping up. A lot like how back in the 80s you had different ways of doing the stock market, right, where you can make a ton of money, right? And then like the Wolf of Wall Street back in the 60s, you're always figuring out a new way of trying to get around, being poor. Historically one of the best possible ways of getting out of the rat race has always been to simply, hey, go create a business, right? And then start hiring people on, and you grow and grow and grow, right? Ultimately, the Industrial Revolution itself was that, right? And it was all about innovation. So I'm seeing this is historically, it's the same struggle that's been happening over and over and over again. And so, like, for everyone out there, you know, don't get like, first off, it's great that we have crypto. Yes, you know, go ahead, jump into it. This is how you're going to escape the matrix. But at the same time, you don't want to be hopeless and be like, oh, there's no way, you know, inflation is this, and every time I go out to the grocery store, it's just sucking away everything, you know, bills are just too much. You never lose yourself and be completely without hope, because there's always a way that you can figure out how to make enough money by getting around something. And ultimately it comes from work first, right? You're going to have to work to try and figure something out. If you give up, then yes, you will stay where you're at. However, even then, there is still the possibility of maybe there's like a stock asset or something where you can literally just work, go up the corporate ladder, make more money that way, just kind of throw that in there as like a savings account, right? And then eventually you can pull that out, like, you know, when you're 60 or whatever, and retire off of that. And so there's always ways, there's always hopeful ways, you know, and I don't want us to get bogged down too much in like the, oh boy, we're in big trouble over here, because that can be a little bit anxiety inducing, right? But there is hope for the future. And that is what we are fighting to do.
Yeah,
So
that's
you're only
definitely that's definitely Jay, go ahead, hop in here.
No, I was gonna say that you're only in trouble if you don't have a marketable skill, right? Giggles kind of put it out there. She says, "I'm sure we can say it'll suck for most of us, but most of us here have side hustles and backup plans. People who have pushed for one goal only may struggle to even live." So, look, when COVID hit the fan, in like March of 2020, and I saw people getting laid off left and right, that's when I really started to consider, okay, I might lose my job. And what happens if I lose my job? I've got nothing to fall back on. And that's when I realized, wow, it really is important to have a marketable skill outside of your labor, right? And so that's what you need to be doing now. Right? You have the internet, you have access to any information that you might possibly want. A lot of it's for free. Some of it you might have to seek mentorship and pay them for, but a lot of the stuff that you could find online is for free. And you need to acquire a marketable skill outside of your labor, right? Or you need to create a product that people find valuable that they'll pay you for. Otherwise, you are going to be part of the unfortunate statistic that is the softening job market, right? And if you don't want to be in that position, if you want to be a person who can take advantage of the generational buy opportunities that we're going to be blessed with, like during the rest of this year and probably still within the first half or so within the next year before the halvening, then you need to be in a position to do so. And that's only going to happen if you have work, if you provide a service or a product that people value that will allow you to acquire capital in order to invest. Because otherwise, look, that's just the unfortunate reality, right? You're going to be part of this statistic, and you're going to be one of those people who become nihilistic in their view of the world and their view of the government, even more so than we already generally are, right? And you don't want to be placed in that position because, man, if you miss out on, even if you're not in crypto, if you miss out on opportunities that are going to come our way over the next year or so, like that's tragic. Like that is absolutely tragic. If you listen to anybody who made it big during the 2008, like the financial crisis between 2008 and 2012, a lot of those millionaires, right, the current millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires that we know of today, they made their money because they were able to invest during that time. And that time is here again. Right? So you don't want to be in a position where you've got nothing to throw at the market, right? Because you're going to be a sad panda, believe me. But Josh, sorry, go ahead, brother. I know you had something to say.
No, you said pretty much everything that I was going to say. You know, it's going to be a grind. You know, the next the next year, 2, 3 years, I mean, it's going to be a grind, you know, and it's historically always sucked for those that are coming out of college, you know, just simply because, you know, you get folks that have, you know, that are older, that have the work experience, you know, but now, especially now, it's even more of a tumultuous time for folks that are coming out of college. You know, if you're in your early 20s, if you're graduating school right now, or if you graduated within the last year or two, you know, you really got to put your priorities in order. You really have to take a look at what's important in life and sacrifice things that, you know, that you need to sacrifice in order to get ahead of the competition, because the competition's only going to get more and more and more fierce, especially as AI starts to become more and more integral into our lifestyles. You know, when was the
Yeah, actually,
last
what you say
time?
right there with the AI, that's 100%. That's an opportunity right now. Like before I actually got into crypto, like dove deep into crypto, right? So I've been in crypto technically for 2 years, but like deep, 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 right? That only started right around this time last year. So it's been only a full year of me really deep diving crypto. But what I was doing before that was I know that I need to get out of the rat race, right? And so I was actually trying to come up with a company in the industry that I'm currently in. I understand a lot of details about it. And I thought to myself, not necessarily AI, but I was kind of thinking of, you know, programs that could take care of those things uh, um, by themselves for the most part, just not specifically AI type stuff, right? That started coming around though too, and I was specifically trying to create a software company that was going to be doing this type of thing, right? Subscription based, right there. That's an opportunity that even if crypto didn't exist, I could still chase, and I could get out of that rat race, right? And so, you know, as you said, Jay, right? If you have some sort of skill that you can create, right, you can make it. And for me, it's really tough because I got a 4-year-old son, and I'm thinking to myself, when he's where I'm at, when he's in his 20s, crypto probably is not going to be the what it is right now. You know, AI, uh, that's not going to be what it is right now. The opportunities are not going to be there. And so for like me, you know, forward thinking, it's like, okay, so what am I going to do, right? Well, I can only try and give him the best opportunity possible by showing him, you know, when I'm going off on like my own business trips and things like that, you know, when I don't have to work a 9 to 5 anymore, instead I'm working that amount of time doing something more productive, like a business, then I can take him along. I can teach him these things, right? Now, that's really nice and all, but, you know, as Giggles said, you know, just worried about like people who don't have that opportunity that end up going through like the public schooling system and all that, and they kind of get trapped, right? Well, here's the thing. I grew up with that. Here I am. And where my future is going is really good. It's all about living that life, learning from your experiences, and then moving forward with that, right? So you can't save them all, but save as many as we can. That's kind of what it is we're doing on the show, and I'm sure everyone else here would agree 100% to that.
What does Rolo say? He says, "Save who you can. Read Last Rites to the Dying." To an extent, I think that's what we're all trying to do here, right?
Hey, I just thought of something. What I want to do, I kind of want to go round robin style here. Will, I want you to go first, and then Nate, and then Brendan, and then Jay, and then I'll close. Well, I'll finish out the thought. What would be one piece of advice that you would give to somebody in their early 20s, somebody that might be, you know, graduating college, or they're in a trade or something like that? What is that one piece of advice you would give to them to help them with decisions in life over the next 10 to 15 years?
So, my internet cut out there for a minute, but I think I got the gist of what you're asking. I would just basically repeat the comments that I'd typed into the chat earlier. The best way to make money, and this is this I'm kind of piggybacking off of the ideas of Richard Hart in his book Sci-Vive. I highly recommend all of you guys listen to that audiobook. It's on YouTube. It's free. But basically, you just have to learn what people's problems are, and then you have to solve those problems, and you have to find a way to monetize that. So it used to be that the way that the thing that made money back in the day was college education. Our parents and our parents before them, like there wasn't a lot of people that had college, and so getting that college education was the thing that made you competitive against your peers. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. There's other systems in place that determine whether or not you're ahead of your peers or not. So the best thing to do is you have to take in your surroundings. You have to observe what's going on around you, and you have to solve other people's problems. If you want to be a gourmet sandwich maker, but you're surrounded by other gourmet sandwich makers, you're probably not going to solve a lot of problems. If there's a lot of potholes in the street, then you go around like filling the potholes and start charging the city money for it, or like get a contract or something like that. You have to figure out what is missing around me. Like first off, you figure out what your skills are. You figure out how are you able to learn new things, and then you have to figure out what are the problems, and then you have to find like congruence between those things. So that's the best advice that I would give young people is, one, take in your surroundings, and two, act with ambition in accordance with those surroundings, and just like level yourself up in that respect. Find out what the world needs and then make it happen. That's all I got.
Just to add to something that Will said there, he gave you guys some really good points. Identify what your skills are. Do those skills allow you to solve a problem that people have, right? And are your skills scalable, and can you monetize it, right? Those are the very important things. And if the answer is no to those questions, acquire new skills. I just wanted to add that on for Will's point.
Nate, what you got, buddy?
So you're going to want to make mistakes. Be okay with making mistakes. Jump out there and go do something. Don't worry about whether it's going to work or if you're going to like maybe hurt yourself financially somehow or something like that. Obviously, you don't want to be reckless. Be smart. Think about the best way to do something, but still do something. When you are in your 20s, that is when you're supposed to kill yourself working hard, right? And what I would say is work as hard in your 20s for 10 years as normal people would do in 40 years. So that way you can live a normal person's 40 years not working at all, or only working on things you want to work on specifically, which is, and this is where you would bring Will's thing into it, something that's going to solve problems. If you're solving the world's problems, you are a superhero, are you not? So I would say try and figure out how to solve problems.
Brendan?
Yeah, a lot of good points. I'm going to just give you a little history about myself. So I started college when I was 14. I went to Harvard when I was 18, and I don't have a college degree to show for it. And that doesn't mean that I haven't learned a lot. And if you ask me, have I learned more in 6 years of college than in the real world? I'll tell you, probably not. Did I learn a lot of skills that I can take into the real world? Yeah, in some cases. But in my 20s, I worked full time. I worked really hard. I was working full time when I was going to Harvard full time. And, I come from a lower middle class family, doesn't have a lot of, money to support me at college. And so I had to work really hard. And my parents gave me a great upbringing to give me the opportunities that I have. And I'm very thankful for that. I had a lot of opportunities that other people didn't. So I'm not saying that. But after that, in my 20s, I continued working, 40, 50 plus hours a week. And then I also started my own clothing business. So on top of my day job, when I was working 40 to 50 plus hours a week, I was also working 30 to 40 plus hours a week trying to get a clothing company off the ground. And I'll tell you, in 5 years, I didn't make a lot of money, if any, with that clothing company. We sponsored shows. Okay. We booked and promoted concerts. I've been on tour with Rockstar Mayhem Fest. I've been a vendor in all of these different, big shows. We sponsored skateboarders, rollerbladers. I've been on tour. I've done a lot of things, but I didn't make a lot of money doing that. But I'll tell you what I did learn. A lot from my experiences, from my business experience, from running your own company and trying to talk to, other businesses to try to get them to sell your clothing. How do you market yourself? How do you know what other people want? Well, you have to ask questions, okay? As Will and Jay were saying, what do people need? Okay, these are my clients. What do you need? And I'm in sales now. Sales isn't, hey, sell me this cell phone. It's no, find what your client is in need of, what points that they're struggling with, and then sell them a solution. Okay. So for me, all of that hard work didn't make me money in my 20s, but it gave me skills to get the job that I have now, to be able to provide information to you. That was the college. I went to school for economics, to give some insight in what I've learned. And so there's a lot, but again, working hard and Giggles asked a question. What would you tell the younger generation? I would say work hard and expect nothing in return. A lot of people now don't want to work, and a lot of people want things given to them. I would say, as one of the greatest presidents in the history said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And not a lot of people are asking that these days. What can you do for your country?
Jay, what you got, buddy?
I mean, man, this is a topic that we could go on for another podcast, but I guess I'll keep it as short as I can. Number one, realize that time is your most valuable asset. It is the only currency that you cannot earn more of, and that you certainly cannot take back. Right. So once you realize that, it gives you a sense of urgency to not procrastinate and to not fuck around. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that when I was in my 20s, and I fucked around way too much in my 20s, and I expended a lot of valuable time that I could have used on something more productive that would have probably fast-tracked my success. Right? That's number one. Realize that the time is your most valuable asset, and don't waste it. Spend it wisely, and consider carefully who you spend it with. Right? That's number one. Number two, I know being an entrepreneur might not necessarily be for everybody, but I do encourage the entrepreneurial mindset, right? Of owning your own business, of being your own boss. And the reason being is, one of the most important lessons that I learned in life is that you become a very competent and great problem solver when you've got nobody to turn to. Right? When I started my business and I realized that I don't have anybody to rely on for my paycheck, I don't have the benefits that a company might provide for me. I don't have health insurance, dental, vision. I don't have sick days. I don't have PTO. I don't have none of that shit. Right? And so if things were to go left, and they often did, the only person that I could turn to was myself. And I became a very competent and good problem solver because of that. And so I'm not saying you have to go out there and run your own business, but I do certainly encourage that entrepreneurial mindset, right? That problem solving competency, because you would not believe how great you are at solving issues and problems when there's nobody else to turn to but yourself, and it's do or die. So those are my two things. Okay. Value your time and become a good problem solver.
And Jay, having an entrepreneurial spirit doesn't mean, like you said, you have to own your own company. This is problem solving. If you work for a job, problem solve. It's about thinking for yourself and realizing, hey, what can we do better? How can I add value to this team? How can I make myself a better person in what I'm doing for my current job? So having entrepreneurial spirit, and by the way, the company that I work for now, it was built on it. It was one of their 12 founding principles. One of them was have an entrepreneurial spirit. So if you are working your job, make it your own and find a way to make it work in your territory. I love it, right? And that, so like you said, not everyone can work for themselves. Not everyone can be their own boss. But that doesn't mean that you can't take those same, things that you can learn from being your own boss and apply those to your current job and your current position.
Yes, sir. It's a skill set that's important.
Well, I can't really say anything that everybody hasn't somebody on the panel hasn't already said. Only thing I'm going to come in with is a mindset, and that is understand and realize that 100% nobody is coming to save you. All right. If you can wrap your head around that, nobody is coming to save you. All right. It puts everything else that the panelists talked about in perspective. All right. When you realize that, that's going to force you to become a subject matter expert in whatever you're doing. It's going to force you to find out what your passion is, and it's going to force you to harness a drive that you've never felt before. But you have to wrap your head around it. That's what you have to wrap your head around is nobody's coming to save you. All right. With that being said, I feel like it's a good spot to close out. Will, why don't you lead us off? What you got coming up this week? What are you excited about, and where can folks find you?
I'm excited about crashing prices in cryptocurrency and continuing this podcast with the boys. This shit's awesome, dude. I am currently up nearby the Vermont-New York border, way up north, up by Canada, doing some work. I'm gonna be here for, I don't know, a week or two, something like that. So if you're in the New England area and you want me to swing by and say hi, then reach out on Telegram. You can find our all of our socials in the description below. Make sure you guys join the Telegram, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Mr. Nate, what do you got going on, bro?
Still grinding like always, man. Like, it's just every single thing that I missed out in my 20s, quite frankly, because I was just, fucking around, really not doing too much, playing a lot of video games. And yeah, like I thought, I'm good enough with video games. Oh, I can become like a Twitch streamer and all that. And then I found out how that works, right? So it is what it is. But it wasn't until I really hit about 28 years old, which is just a few years ago now, that I was like, you know what? I can't be doing these 10, 12-hour shifts 6 days a week for 40 years. I can't be doing that. And so I really started trying hard. I originally started with a company, right? But then it's like, you know what? I'm going to put that on the back burner for now because I'm seeing what crypto is doing. And crypto is really going to be multiplied. Like, the amount of capital you can put in, the multiples are insane. And it's not going to be like that for very long. So you want to get into crypto now, right? Especially now with things being so cheap. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour all that capital back into a company and just have things grow from there. And I'm going to be doing this at least until 2030 for sure. So, and the most important thing for me is just buying my time back. I just want to encourage everybody to really think about buying your time back. Even if you love the job that you're at, try and figure out a way that you can get some of your time back where it's like you're not too worried or stressed out that you could get fired. Right? So, but yeah, that's just kind of my final word on that. Brendan, I love your hats. That's great.
What you got, Brendan?
I guess I'll take it from there then. I haven't even shown all my hats yet. I feel like we needed a longer stream for me to, get them all going. But I like hats. I'm mad about hats. Do you like hats? No. So a couple things. I am working hard. I am trying to better myself every single day of my life. And that comes in a lot of different ways, right? It comes in body, mind, and spirit. If you want to make a lot of money, and say you make a lot of money in crypto, if you aren't mentally in the right place, if you aren't spiritually in the right place, if you're not in your body in the right place, you're still not going to be happy. Money doesn't innately make you happy. It gives you an opportunity to have time and to be free. But what you do with that time and what you do with your money ultimately is what makes you happy. As I'm continuing to give more advice here. But realize that being rich doesn't make you happy. If being rich made you happy, we wouldn't see all of these famous people that are rich out of their minds committing suicide. Okay? Mental health is a big problem that we don't talk about enough in this country. And I'm not going to get on a soapbox here. All I'm saying is making you rich gives you a comfortable life. It gives you time. It gives you an ability to do what you want. But you have to realize what makes you happy and get to that point where your time and your life is something that you find free and important. So this week, we have a lot of more content coming up. Work's been crazy for me, continuing to travel. And tonight is a holiday, so I'll stay up a little bit later than normal. But tomorrow I'm off, and I'm going to be grinding. You know, I'm going to be working on some crypto and trying to see where the next couple of weeks take us. But I'm trying to get some more money to put into the market because this is low, man. Can we go a little bit lower? Sure. But let's get some DCAs rolling because I don't want to miss this boat. Not financial advice, but I don't want to miss this boat. And just last second, I talked to my old company. This is a hat from my old company, Percent Apparel. So that's the last hat I'll be showing you all tonight. Thank you guys for watching, gals. We will see you soon.
Jay, what you got, buddy?
Not much, man. My usual sign off. Thank you guys once again for joining us here at the DGen Roundtable. We know that time is your most valuable asset, so we do appreciate that you spend a little bit of that time here with us. As always, you can find me on Instagram at agent_J Schroth, on Twitter at _P90Hex, and I do have one announcement to make. I alluded to this earlier during the week in our Telegram chat, so subscribe to that chat if you have not already, because you get the alpha first from us here at the DGen Roundtable when important news breaks out, like the Greyscale Bitcoin, like the Greyscale news versus the SEC. And I told them that I was going to have some news there, and I was going to announce it to during the Sunday stream, and I am. I have now accumulated enough clientele over the past few months that I'm certainly confident in telling you guys about this. I am now officially opening up the door for consultations. It'll be 1 hour consultations at a flat fee. You can ask me about the fee, in the DMs. But and that's open to everybody. Anybody who's had a prior consultation with me before. I know some of you guys are here in the chat, and some of you guys are in our Telegram chat. Anybody who who signs up for consecutive consultations with me will get a 25% discount. And so if you want something that's occurring on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis, we could certainly work with that. And yeah, so I'm pretty excited to do that because I think it's pretty obvious already from what we do here in the DGen Roundtable that we like talking about this stuff, and we certainly like helping people out with this stuff. So if you want one-on-one attention with me, that's certainly an avenue that you can pursue. But a lot of this will be given out for free here on our Sunday episodes on our Telegram chat. We're not going to charge you for that. Only if you want my time and attention to yourself for an hour's worth. If you want any, how you would say, testimonials. If you want any testimonials, right, about my work, you can certainly inquire in the chat. Like I said, there's a handful of people there who've had multiple consultations with me, and I think they like me. So that's all I got.
Yeah, man, that's exciting. All right, guys. And I am Josh. You guys can find me on Twitter at Chocolate Taints. I'm also on Instagram at Chocolate Taints. That's where you guys can find me. We got Rags to Riches coming up Wednesday at 8:00 p.m. So if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys hit that notification bell. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. If you guys could go ahead and smash that like button for us on this video as well. Make sure you guys are subscribed and get into that Telegram. Check down in the description below. You guys will see our Telegram as well as all of our social medias. Make sure you guys are following us on social media. With that being said, is there anything else that I'm forgetting? Nope, we got Rags coming up, and then I mean, we got the entire month of September set up for you guys for Wednesday night. So make sure you guys are definitely hitting that notification bell, because every single Wednesday this month, we have a confirmed special guest. I'm not sure if we've announced all of them. I know we've announced 2 of them, I believe, but we have the entire month set up. So make sure you guys hit that notification bell. So with that being said, we thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight, panel. Thank you so much for all your awesome insights and everything that you provide. You guys make the show what it is, and I can't be more appreciative of you guys. So for you guys that are catching the show live, thank you so much. If you guys are catching us on the replay, make sure you guys tune in Wednesday night at 8:00 p.m. Eastern time for our special guest, Rags to Riches. With that being said, we will see you guys Wednesday night, and we out.